Hi, welcome back to Signature Customs, or welcome along to Signature Customs if you've just joined us. Plenty of new subscribers last week, so thank you very much for that. All the comments are really interesting. Tried to answer them all. In fact, I think I did answer them all. Mainly about our wonderful Fiat. So 1928 Fiat 509. The intention with this is to build it into a VSCC special, very much along the lines of cars that were built back in the day. A couple of things I wanted to clear up. One was we had full permission to take the car out. It has been purchased. It is now mine. I have a bill of sale. I did have a couple of phone calls from people who were quite concerned that I just helped myself out of some old boy's garage who was lying in hospital. So David, I hope you feel better soon, and just to put a few minds at rest there. Secondly, where do we go next with the VSCC car? So we've got to get it re-registered. So we've got a registration number, we've got a VIN number, we've got all the information. And what I need to do is piece it back together, fill in a couple of forms, and then basically get it signed off by an accredited owners club, the Fiat owners club, I guess, in the UK. And they will basically say, yes, it is a Fiat 509, and I should get the registration number back. So what are we doing this week? So this week we're going to turn our attention back to the Rolls Royce. So to recap, we are building a 1934 Rolls Royce 2025. We're building it as a VSCC style special. Unfortunately, although it's eligible for the post-vintage thoroughbred in terms of it being a Rolls Royce in 1930s, it isn't, because we're fitting an Aero engine, a Fairchild 770 Ranger engine, which is an air-cooled V12 engine. That was designed in 1931, which precludes it from being allowed into the VSCC. Bit of a shame, but never mind, we move on. As a bit of a recap, you might remember that in the last episode on the Rolls Royce, we managed to get the front engine mounts built and in place, and we got the engine mounted on those front engine mounts. I put the back engine mounts back in, just as they were, just to hold it in place. And at that point, I then need to work out things like pinion angles and drive shaft angles and all that sort of stuff. But I also need to work out position of the grille, position of the bulkhead, etc. So a couple of days ago, I was lucky enough to see a bulkhead available for a 2025 Rolls Royce. It was available free of charge from a chappie in the VSCC. Bob has this wonderful special race car called the Maggot with twin engines. Absolutely fabulous thing, as well as a collection of quite a few other bits and bobs. We can now look at putting the bulkhead on and playing about with the radiator grille. A bulkhead for a Rolls Royce 2025, which is aluminium. It's quite heavy, but it's obviously correct. Has the foot pedal on it still for the self-lubrication system, or not quite so self actually. It would look as if it's actually just the lubrication system. The container for which is on the other side, and a few wires and a few bits and bobs which we'll clean out. Tiny bit of damage, but I think we can solve that. But you know, what a great piece. The bulkhead sits here. It's, you know, I've got room to lower the bulkhead a bit, which I think I might do, but I'd just like to get the proportions. I probably need to narrow it a bit as well, I think, to get it right, but I'd like to do that. And I've just got a little bit of a thought process of seeing where the radiator grille sits, but it's far too heavy to physically manhandle around. I've just really struggled to pick it up onto the trestle. The forearmed amongst you will know that you don't need a radiator core with an air-cooled engine, so we can take the radiator core out. So that's what I'm going to endeavour to do. I'm hoping it's as simple as undoing these nuts, taking out this fibre, and it all comes out, but there's no guarantee of that. It turns out that you can't undo the screws on the side because they just do the felt. So much to everybody's enjoyment, I'm currently destroying what looks like a perfectly good Phantom 2 radiator. Slow but steady, Phantom 2 radiator, which looks to be perfect, is getting a bit of a beating. I haven't recorded any of this because, if I'm honest, I thought it would be really boring. But I'm now into God knows how many hours of doing this. The build of this is just incredible. There are hundreds upon hundreds of little copper tubes, and I'm literally just smashing them out with a hammer. This is how I've been getting out. It's quite incredible, really. It's just literally it's just a point worth noting, I think. This thing is 91 years old, 1934, I believe. It might be 35, but we're splitting hairs. It's 90 years old. And this radiator is just absolutely immaculate. I mean, there's just nothing in it. I mean, it's quite ridiculous, really, when you look at it. The quality that's gone into making this thing, there must be, well, I dread to think how many tubes there are. Thousands wouldn't be an understatement, I don't think. The build of this thing is just incredible. Everything about these cars, everything I touch on them, just makes me realise just what an amazing piece of machinery they were and still are. I don't know whether you can see this, but the ones that are up against the very edge, which is where I've just got to, are actually flat on the one side. As I say, I'm absolutely in awe of how these things were made. I really am. Feel a bit guilty for pulling it apart, if I'm totally honest, but there we go. What did I say? You don't make an omelette without breaking an egg. Just breaking a Fabergé egg. Probably should have done a video about this as a complete thing rather than just odds and sods, because this is taking a long time. Anyway, I've got all the pieces out of this side now, which is good. I've got the same to do on this side. Obviously the top's done, and to all intents and purposes the bottom's done. So I'm just going to carry on doing that. There are more tubes to come out, which is unbelievable, but there are. And if anybody ever asks you in a quiz how many tubes there are in a Phantom 2 radiator, the answer probably needs Raymond from Rain Man. But let me tell you, that is a lot of tubing. There must be thousands. I mean, you can see how many are there. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, there's 6, there's 20 in that little section there. All joined together in lead. You know, and there's it's just unreal. So this is what we're sort of aiming for, is to have it all clear down the sides, also along the bottom. So we've started, so we'll carry on with this in a bit, but we're getting there. It has lightened it up a bit. I'm not too sure by how much, and I'm not too sure what else we need to take out, because I'm going to offer it up at the front now and see where we sit with it. I'm going to drop the grill down from where it used to be, I think, but that will be part and parcel of the design process. So getting the bulkhead has indeed given me a bit of an impetus on this thing. I have cleared out the back of the radiator, which gives us room to get the carbs in. I'm going to use the big Holly type ones. I don't know what make they are, but they're Holly type ones. And we've got the bulkhead on there as well. We're really liking the bulkhead because that's got the pedal on it for the oiling system and everything else. So I'm really liking that. The transition from here to here is interesting because the line is very different, and obviously the engine protrudes quite a lot. So we're going to have to put big bulbous sections on the side, which I'm not unhappy about, very similar to the Napier Ralton. So I'm not disheartened by that. I don't know how we're going to get on with the Rolls Royce grille and the Rolls Royce badge. I'd like to keep both, but I'm wondering how Rolls Royce will feel about that. I'm not going to use the Spirit of Ecstasy. Somehow we will end up with the bird's wings on top, which seem appropriate as it's a aero engine car. And we can do one of the more infamous gauges that I do on my cars. The grille is pretty much in line with the axles at the front, which is a look that I like. It seems to be the look of the period. We've now got the bulkhead in, as I say, and that bulkhead sort of matches up. I think we're probably at about the level on that one. We might be able to drop it down a little bit, which would be handy. Right, I've bolted the steering column back in place. It is still fairly loose, but nevertheless it's back in place, and I'm just trying to look at how that works with the bulkhead. So the bulkhead does need to move over a wee bit, so I'm going to centralise the bulkhead on the chassis and then work out how much of that area I need to remove. I really want to utilise this mount to come down, so I'm going to utilise this bit of alley and come down and mount on there somehow, just to fix that in place. So we might actually have to bend it because it's going to be slightly out of place, so I might actually have to re-drill it and just move it so it looks a bit nicer. I am gradually taking all the old nuts and bolts and bits of rubbish off this as well, which I haven't videoed, but I will do. I've got the bulkhead sort of on the bench. There's a few things in the way, so I'm just going to remove the vast majority of the stuff off the bulkhead. There's some cable mounts here. This is a part of the oiling system, so we're going to salvage that, and some electrical stuff here, and another mount here which has actually broken the alloy. So just going to remove a load of these bits. Very, very gradually getting there. I am trying to salvage as much of this as I can, but I sort of managed to break a few bits. Nothing too drastic, but I haven't snapped anything on the actual casting yet, which is the most important thing. We do have some damage here, which you can now see a little bit better. I think we're going to have to heat that up and try and solve it once it's hot. And I do need to get this out of here, which I've ground off the heads, but I don't seem to be able to get it out. Yet another job that's taken so much longer than it should have done. Stripping this back, I've still not got everything off it, but most of it I have, and I've had a go at getting the aluminium oxide off. It's taken a long time, and it looks like it's taken all of 5 minutes, but it hasn't. Just have a little go at getting the steering column in the right place. So I'm just going to try and clearance this a bit, just to get it to move over. As you can see, the rib of the alloy on that one is a lot further over than that one, so we just need to level those out. We're just trying to work out some of the aesthetics on the Rolls. So we've got the radiator pretty much perpendicular, and I'm sort of liking the height of that. I've got the bulkhead sort of where I want it, and I've just started to hollow out that area where the steering column goes through. I'm gonna have to make some adjustments to that. But one of the things we're looking at, we just run a straight edge across, which just a piece valley across, Finley in the background there. And we're just trying to get an idea of the height, if you like. I think personally, the height at the back is a bit too high. So I'm going to drop it down a bit. I'm going to start with 1 inch. There's actually 3 inches difference. It's quite a big difference. So I'm going to start with 1 inch drop the bulkhead down. There's plenty of room at the front underneath the radiator or the grill shell, shall I say, for the suspension to move up and down. I've got it set at 90 degrees with a little bit of angle there and a couple of clamps, so I know that's at 90 degrees. I've just cut that section out. I have just rounded off the edges here a little bit and here. Tried to get in here. I'm not going to go mad because I've got a feeling this might need a bit of adjustment yet. I've also opened this out a bit. And when I say I might need to weld something, I quite fancy building that up back as it was and then obviously getting rid of this. So it might be a case of filling that in later. I think I'm going to have to be a bit more competent with my TIG welder before then. Let's check out some sizes. So I've just tried that on there. The clever ones amongst you will of course realise that if you take 1 inch out of here, you've got to take 1 inch out of here. So I'm going to open this up by a bit more just so it fits on. So I've basically taken 1 inch out of the height of the thing, bulkhead. We've got that in place. I haven't necessarily got it 100% front to back level. However, I've put a couple of pieces on. I really don't know whether you can see this, but the top to bottom is now, I'm really liking that. That's just the right angle. And it sort of doesn't conflict with the angle here on the piece here. So it doesn't look like it's sloping up. I also like the angle of the other side. The other datum point is this going across here. Now we're still gonna have to have a nice little kick out on that because we just are, but that's fine. I can do that. I can do a little bulge there, which I quite like the idea of, going down both sides. I also think it will make the run-in of the design quite nice, so I can do that. So I'm quite liking that. It gives us a nice engine space. As you can see, we're running back in here at some sort of angle. So we've just got a little bit of an angle kicking up. We can have, you know, a raise up here for it. As I think I've already said, the seat is almost certainly not going to be the seat. That just happens to be sat there. It's quite handy to put things on and have a sit and make brum brum noises once in a while. So I think that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks for watching. We've got the bulkhead cleaned up and an idea of where it's going. We've got the radiator cleaned out. It's no longer a radiator, it's just a shell. So again, that's a step forwards. And next is mounting the radiator, I guess, so we know exactly where it's going. So if you'd like to see us do that, please tune in next time. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the video, please like, please subscribe, tell your friends, leave us a comment, all the usual YouTube stuff. Apparently it helps the algorithm. I have no idea what the algorithm is, by the way, but yeah, apparently it helps it. Anyway, hopefully we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.